Over the years, there have been many famous bands and musicians that have never scored a #1 hit on the US Billboard charts. We're going to take a look at 18 of them. See you on the flip side. Hello everyone, Daryl the Northern Vinyl Guy coming at you with another video, and as mentioned in the intro, we're going to be looking at some bands and musicians, 18 of them to be precise, that have never scored a #1 single on the US Billboard charts at the time of this video. So yes, if they score one in the coming years, well then I guess this video will be invalid at that point. But as of the recording of this video, these people and these musicians have never scored a #1 hit. Just to clarify, yes, some of these musicians and artists have scored #1 hits on the Canadian charts or the UK charts or the Australian charts or other international charts, but they have never scored a #1 hit on the US Billboard 100 charts. Okay, so I'm not talking about the US alternative charts or the country charts or the mainstream chart or anything like that. I am looking specifically at the US Billboard Top 100. So without further ado, before we get started, if you are new to my channel and you like what you see, please give me a thumbs up, leave some comments down in the section below, and definitely subscribe to my channel if you are a returning viewer. As always, do appreciate your support on my channel. And so here we go. Here are 18 musicians and artists that have never scored a #1 hit on the US Billboard Top 100. These are going to be in alphabetical order, so this is not my personal preference or favorite or anything like that. So we are going to start with The Cars. I was a little surprised when I did my research and realized that they had not scored any #1 hits. Shake It Up, Drive, You Might Think, Just What I Needed, Tonight She Comes. These were all top 10 hits by The Cars, but none of them scored at the #1 spot. So it's still a little surprising to me that The Cars, with, that pedigree, did not score a #1 hit. All right, number 2. This one here definitely has scored some #1 hits on the country radio, but he also crossed over into the Billboard charts. But Johnny Cash, and I only have this one, and I think a greatest hits one in my collection, but Johnny Cash never hit the #1 spot, even with Folsom Prison Blues or any of those tracks, never scored a #1 hit. And that includes the cover of the 9 Inch Nails song Hurt back in the early 2000s. So Johnny Cash, little surprising, he did not have a #1. Now, this one here definitely has scored some hits in Canada, and I'm thinking that maybe with some of these it's because they didn't receive mainstream success in the United States, but definitely these songs would be hits in Canada, and they did cross over in the United States. But Tom Cochrane, whether it is him as an individual solo artist or with Red Rider, never scored a #1 hit. Little bit surprising. Life is a Highway is a classic song and obviously redone by Rascal Flatts for the Cars soundtrack. So a little bit surprising to me that he didn't hit some mainstream as he was there with Bryan Adams and a few others, Celine Dion, that did score some hits in the United States. So Tom Cochrane, little surprising to me, never had a #1. This next one, definitely a big one back in the late 60s, early 1970s. Creedence Clearwater Revival, Lodi, I Put a Spell on You, Susie Q, Down on the Corner, Fortunate Son. I mean, these were all classic hits, and a little bit surprising that this album in particular didn't even score a #1. But there you go, their self-titled album. CCR, no #1s there. Speaking of crossover country and folk and rock. Bob Dylan has never had any #1 singles on the US Billboard #1. Closest he came was his Rainy Day. I think it's #1 and #2. Why am I running a blank on that? Anyway, I think he scored. I think it was a #2 hit. But anyway, Bob Dylan. That was the closest he came. This is the Slow Train Coming. All right, I think this one here might be from the UK perspective, and some of the ones that we're going to see coming up had more success in the UK than anything else. Electric Light Orchestra did not have a #1 single on the US Billboard charts. They were more successful in other parts. This album here has, Evil Woman, Living Thing. This is the greatest hits. Sweet Talking Woman, Telephone Line, Mr. Blue Sky, Strange Magic. None of them went to the #1 spot in the United States. But great band, classic rock, 1970s, Yellow. All right, this one here, a little obscure. I could kind of see how this may not have made #1. However, she had a slew of hits in the late 80s and early 90s. Melissa Etheridge, Come Over to My Window, I'm Not the Only One, Like the Way I Do. These are all great tracks from the late 80s, early 90s. But Melissa Etheridge, great female musician, never had a #1 single on the US Billboard charts. All right, this next one, I think probably because of the genre music, maybe during the time period 90s and 2000s, but punk music is not always top of the charts, the US Billboards. But Green Day, a little bit surprising. This is Dookie. This is the one that had When I Come Around. It had Basket Case on it, and then of course When September Ends and songs of that nature coming out in the 2000s. It is surprising to me that Green Day never scored a #1 on the US Billboards. All right, this next American band, arena rock, I guess we would call it, closest they ever came was #2, and that is Journey. Steve Perry and company did not score a #1. For whatever reason, and like I said, this is arena rock. Everybody knows them. Faithfully, Lights. It has Don't Stop Believin', I'll Be Right Without You, Who's Crying Now, The Girl Can't Help It, Only the Young, Eye in the Sky, or Wheel in the Sky. I'm just surprised that they never hit the #1 spot. But, when you're competing against Queen and other bands at that era, you're probably not going to be scoring as many #1 singles as you should. All right, this one here, I'm thinking it's because of the time that these guys played. Very possible that, heavy rock and classic rock and things of that nature were not going to make the #1 spot on the billboards. Definitely had some success in the UK, but Led Zeppelin, Houses of the Holy, this is my favorite album by them. Dire Makers, my favorite song by them. But let's face it, Stairway to Heaven, Dire Maker, what else is on this particular one? If we're looking at singles here, The Song Remains the Same, The Rain Song, Over the Hills and Far Away. These are all just from this album alone. It is very surprising to me that they never scored a #1 hit, but I think that due to the time period and just people weren't ready for that. Speaking of heavier stuff, thrash metal and metal itself, I'm going to show this kind of as a placeholder because I think it's easier to see than the Black Album. But Metallica as a band never scored a #1 hit. That includes, the songs One. It includes Enter Sandman, For Whom the Bell Tolls is on this one. These are all great tracks, and of course Load and Reload and all that kind of stuff. I don't know when Until It Sleeps, mid-90s. Just a little surprising. Whether you like James Hetfield and company, not the point. It's a little shocking that Metallica never scored a #1 hit in the US. And speaking of the 90s, we're going to be looking a little bit of grunge, a little bit of alternative here, Pearl Jam. And I could have showed some Alice in Chains on this one too. But all these early 90s through the mid-90s, popular songs. This one here had Black. This one here had Jeremy. And of course, Pearl Jam had a slew of hits later on. Just surprising that they never reached the number one spot, but I suppose that they are competing with a whole pile of other bands at that time that were a little more mainstream. And alternative music was not a huge success as well. So not as pop, not Britney Spears, not Backstreet Boys, not NSYNC, right? This is all niche at the time in the grunge category. So Pearl Jam has never had a number one hit. Radiohead has not scored anything. I think Creep is one of the few that's even gone top 40 in the United States. Pablo Honey is a great album. OK Computer is seen as one of their number one albums of all time. Big hits in the UK. Everybody in North America knows them, but they've just never been able to top the US Billboard Top 100 number one spot. So yeah, Radiohead, this was a little shocking to me. It's a great album, Pablo Honey. There you go. All right, this one for most of you is probably not going to come as a surprise. It wasn't a surprise to me either. Born in this whole record here, I mean, I've talked about this before as basically a greatest hits album, but Born in the USA, I'm on Fire, I'm Going Down, Glory Days, Dancing in the Dark, My Hometown, none of them went to the number one spot. And then, of course, if we're looking at, other Bruce Springsteen albums, the Nebraska album, the Born to Run album, they all had great hits, and he's never gone to number one. So Bruce Springsteen, I mean, shocking that he's going to have a Hall of Fame career, never going to number one. Supertramp, Crime of the Century, Bloody Well Right. What else is on here? We've got Dreamer, we've got Rudy, we've got Crime of the Century. These are all classic songs. Now this one here, I think it's because it's more new wavy than anything else. Talking Heads. But I mean, the songs that they did do, Life During Wartime, Burning Down the House. What's the other one? There's a few others. I'm just running a blank on it. But, Talking Heads, everybody knows them. Once again, everybody knows them. But I think it was just a niche, early, new wave type of style. Not everybody is into that. Nobody ever was. But everybody knows them. So it's a little surprising that they never went to the number one charts in the U.S., even with one song. I mean, you look at some of the one-hit wonders that have gone there, the number one spot, and Talking Heads never hit that, right? So there we go. All right, I think this is a case of, once again, very successful in the United Kingdom. Everybody knows these due to the soundtracks, especially the CSI series. We've got The Who. This one has You Better You Bet, but I mean, Baba O'Reilly never went to number one, which is just shocking to me. That's a great song. But The Who never went to the number one spot. This is the Face Dances album. And what more do I got to say about that? A little surprising to me. All right, and then last but not least, I think that this is because it's kind of a niche thing. This one here is more, they did score a number one hit, or he scored a number one hit in Australia. But I think that because this is parody music, and everybody knows Weird Al Yankovic, but Weird Al never had a number one hit. Even with his Eat It, which went to number one, like I said, in Australia, never had a number one song on the Billboard charts. Not Amish Paradise, not Like a Surgeon. None of those went to the number one spot. Probably because they're covers and they're parodies. But once again, everybody knows Weird Al. Everybody knows his backing band. Everybody thinks that he's hilarious. Well, maybe not everybody, but anybody that knows him. Weird Al Yankovic not going to the number one spot. So there you have it, everyone. Those are 18 musicians and bands that have never scored a number one hit in the United States. A little bit surprising to me for quite a few of these. So let me know down in the comments section below. Are you surprised by any of these bands? Any of these artists that didn't have a #1 hit? Why do you think some of them never did score a #1 hit? Comments down below. Give me a thumbs up if you like the video. Once again, if you're new to my channel, definitely click that subscribe button. And if you are a continuing viewer, I am glad that you're here. And until next time, take care everyone, and we will see you on the next one.